I am not one to record myself, but I really want to share some of my feelings about life lately and as a mother during a very challenging, we'll call it challenging year. I have many young kids. I have kids from age 6 now to 20. They've all had their birthdays this year, and they all turned from an odd number to an even number. So I have a girl, my youngest was in kindergarten in March when this all started. I'm going to even backtrack a little bit. I remember about this time last year, my husband saying to me that he had read that he said there's a new virus in China, and it's apparently really bad and causing a lot of problems. And I remember just looking at him like, oh, thinking, well, glad it's there, hope it stays there. And that was kind of the extent of my thinking, but I began following and learning about it while it was still in China. And China is very good about restricting what kind of information can get out. Usually the people that I looked and followed, their information disappeared off of whatever it was they were using, whether it was Twitter or I saw YouTube things. The videos and such would disappear. And at the time I remember telling friends, you guys, I have gone down the rabbit hole of all rabbit holes. You would not believe what's going on. And so, as time moves on, I was watching people over there being locked in their homes, not allowing people out at all. I saw them spraying streets with some kind of disinfectant, I guess. I don't know. I just was watching these things and super just alarmed, thinking, I can't believe that in China they can get away with doing stuff like that, I remember seeing probably in February a woman being interviewed who lived in Italy, and she was describing how difficult it was there and how they couldn't leave their homes. If they did, they had to have paper, I believe, and if they went anywhere, they had to stand 6 feet apart. There was a limited amount of people. It was only if you needed to go to the grocery store. Like, there was nothing else. And the lady that was interviewing her said, well, how are you doing? And she said, honestly, I'm not doing well. My kids are good because, we're baking cakes every day. But my husband and I are really struggling through this. And I realized that, this was a serious situation and that the likelihood of it spreading was great. I still didn't think it would ever be that bad of a situation here as far as control and whatever. So we fast forward a little bit. In March, I remember the day that they started closing everything down, and I was so paranoid. I was very alarmed, and at the time, not even on my radar was I worried about how any of this would affect my kids. I think maybe because of that lady's comment about her kids, they're resilient and that they really weren't fazed by what was happening because they were just in this happy home doing fun things every day. Her kids must have been really young. I don't know. Because I was there. I was living in that really scared frame of mind, and I was having trouble sleeping. I was so scared. I really thought, as it crept into the area that I live, I was certain that if it came to my house and some people in my household would get it and they would die. And so I was living in that frame of mind where I was so scared, and we locked down, man. They locked down for the 14 days to slow the spread, and I was vigilant. We didn't go anywhere. My kids definitely didn't leave the house. I had to drive, um, you know, a little bit. And anyway, I so regret. I regret it. I regret. It proved to be very, very unhealthy for my children. I had no idea. I had no idea how difficult all of this would be on my kids. And I've kind of evolved. I still, it's not like I don't worry about this virus. I do. I, but I don't let that, I don't know how I've even gotten to a point where I don't let it keep me up at night. There's times where, yeah, I get laying at night thinking about it and it's worrisome. Um, I have decided to see things through the eyes of my kids and try to be a little bit more, I don't know what even the word is, just a little more positive, I guess, in the way I talk about it all. So I never thought it would be such a hard thing. And I felt, honestly, that I was keeping my kids safe. So I think that the language that we use around all of this is super important, super important. And I'm going to just go through just a couple words, a couple examples from what I've seen. And I have my computer right here. That's what I'm looking at because I kind of tend to forget things. So, okay, the first word I want to touch on is the word safe. So I hear that a lot. And there is no perfectly safe with a contagious virus. It's out there. I wish the masks were as magical as we all want them to be. I am not opposed to masks. I hate to even bring that word up because it's such a contentious thing. I feel like I know that they stop spit and droplets and all that, but your breath is going through. I mean, obviously we have to breathe or they would suffocate us. I know they're not 100%. So with that, I don't like the word using the I don't like people using the word safe. Like if you have that, you'll be safe. You won't get sick. Nothing will happen to you. Also, that you won't hurt anybody else. That's another one. So, we do the best we can. We try to be careful, but kids are constantly being told to wear their masks to be safe and to keep others safe. And I feel like if a kid hears that over and over, referring to a lot of these things, they're going to they're they're going to ultimately feel like things are their fault or that they're not safe if they don't. Like it is normal behavior for us to walk around without wearing a mask. That's kind of the normal where we should be in society. And then there's cases and situations where, yeah, we should probably wear a mask, but I don't want my kids to feel that they are not safe in any way because they're not doing something like putting a mask on or something. There's been a couple times where I've gone into a store with my littlest and she forgot her mask or whatever, and I told her, "You're okay, you're fine," but she's like, "No, no," because she has been fed this constantly wherever she goes, mostly school. And I also feel like kids will blame themselves. Kids are just by nature, they're more selfish, and not even in a negative way. I feel like, so a long, long time ago, I lost a little boy, died, and I went to some grief classes to kind of learn how children grieve because I also had another little child that was really struggling. I was struggling. In these classes, though, they talked about some of the things that children do because they aren't completely rational and they kind of act out things and do things and it manifests in different ways. And one of the things they touched on was that kids are just selfish by nature and that even though it might not make any sense, they will blame themselves. So, for instance, I forgot to tell Grandpa goodbye and I know that made him really sad, and then he died, and it's all my fault. Or in this case, Mr. Neighbor died. I didn't have my mask on when I was outside playing. I'm responsible for that. These kids are really being told, and I'm not talking just little kids. I'm talking clear up to college age kids are being told that they're they're being blamed, and I don't like it, basically. Um, so I just think we need to be really careful about how we use the words safe. I try to say things like, "Oh, let's just try to be a little more careful right now. We need to probably put our masks on," but that's not 100% safe. Like, it's just an added measure. We're just trying to be a little more careful. It's kind of like covering our mouths when we sneeze. It's just doing it for us all the time, basically. Okay, another word is dirty. So when my kids come home and they're worn their masks at school, I don't tell them that their masks are dirty. I tell them that those masks have been used and it's time to get a different one. I don't want them feeling that they're germs or who they are or them as a person, that they are dirty. I think that that can be very damaging. You are not dirty. Obviously, so I'm not talking about dirt and that we get dirty. I get that, but I just feel like constantly telling kids, you touch that and now it's dirty, is not a good message. Social distancing, I think, is a damaging way to phrase these things. People need to be social. My kids need to be social. We could say physical distancing. I think that's a much healthier way to say it. We need to encourage relationships. We need to encourage friendships. We need to encourage being neighborly and being kind and serving others and thinking of others and reaching out to others. And now more than ever. And when we tell people to socially distance, they close in and become, all about themselves, and it's not healthy. It's a sad place to be. I also want to touch on good and bad. So I've heard people say things like, I hate to even say these things because so and so is wearing a mask all the time, they're being so good. Things like that. I don't want my kids to feel like they're bad if they walk through the house without wearing a mask or out to the car or whatever. I don't think wearing a mask makes you good. I don't think wearing a mask makes you bad. I don't think not wearing a mask makes you good. And I don't think not wearing a mask makes you bad. Okay, so I know people have very intense feelings about all of these things. I have just kind of come to a place where I need to keep my head in a more positive space. I believe that people are doing what is best for them, and I believe we need to honor that. However that looks. We don't know what's going on in people's homes. We don't understand the gravity of this. Some people think, oh, well, you've got all these little kids and your life goes on. Not so much. These kids are struggling. Kids are having a hard time with all of this more than I ever thought they would. We can't assume that people are intending on hurting us. The intent of people matters. We can't assume that we know what people's intentions are. So basically, I feel like we need to keep our kids. I mean, if people are worried about the elderly, I understand that. I'm not saying we don't need to worry about those people, but we really need to remember our children through this and how we talk about all of this and what we say and how this is going to have long-term effects on them and their mentality about life and their safety and being good and what does that look like, and if they're bad, and they're not bad, they're kids and they're trying to live and have friends and be friendly and be kind and share and help, and those are good things, and they're being told not to do those things. So my mind often tells me to look at this through the eyes of my kids and how will this affect them, and that has changed and helped me a lot. I feel like we need to make the best of it and that there's a lot to look forward to. Life is good. Life is a blessing. And we need to remember that. And here they come running up the stairs. Gotta go.